Nobody saw this coming. Not the tournament officials, not the broadcast team, not even the security detail whose job it is to anticipate everything. On a warm Roman afternoon in one of the most historic sports venues in the world, the president of Italy stood up from his seat, walked across the royal box, and changed the life of a 20-year-old girl from Manila forever. And here is the thing that makes this moment so extraordinary. She had not even won the tournament. She had not lifted a trophy. She had not played in a final. She was sitting quietly in the corner of the royal box with her ankle wrapped in a compression bandage, her tournament already over, watching other people play the sport she had come to Rome to conquer. And yet, Sergio Mattarella, 84 years old, head of state of the Italian Republic, a man who has stood in the presence of world leaders, guided a nation through crises, and witnessed history across 8 decades, looked across that stadium, asked one simple question, and then did something that nobody in the entire history of the Italian Open had ever done before. This is the full story, and trust me, you need to hear every single part of it. Let's go back to May 10th, 2026, Rome, Italy, the Foro Italico. If you have never been to this place, understand that it is not just a tennis venue, it is a monument. The Stadio Centrale sits surrounded by marble statues of ancient Roman athletes frozen mid-stride, mid-throw, mid-triumph, as if the ghosts of 1,000 competitions are watching every match played on that court. The stands that day were packed to absolute capacity. The Italian Open had reached its semifinal weekend, and the energy inside the arena was the kind that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. A sea of Italian flags filled the stadium, green and white and red rolling across the stands like a tide. But if you looked carefully, and a lot of people were looking very carefully, you could see something different scattered through the crowd. Patches of red, white, and blue. Not French blue, not British blue, Philippine blue. Filipino flags had made their home inside one of Italy's most sacred sporting venues, and the people carrying them were loud, proud, and completely unashamed about it.
In the royal box, tennis legends sat alongside former champions and federation officials from across Europe. It was exactly the kind of gathering you would expect at a tournament of this magnitude. But that morning, a very distinguished guest had arrived quietly, without announcement, without fanfare. Sergio Mattarella, the president of the Italian Republic, had accepted a personal invitation from Italy's Victorious Davis Cup and Billie Jean King Cup teams to attend the tournament. Just days earlier, he had hosted Yannick Sinner and other Italian tennis stars at the Quirinale Palace, the official residence of the Italian head of state. At that meeting, Mattarella had been characteristically humble. He had told the players directly, and these are his words, "I don't want to be seen as some kind of talisman because I'm not one at all." But then he had added something that showed exactly why people respect this man so deeply. He told them that the value of Italian tennis, both men's and women's, allowed the country to look forward to the Italian Open with renewed and consolidated confidence. This was not a man who showed up for photo opportunities. This was a man who showed up because he genuinely cared. And now he sat in the front row of the royal box, watching the semifinal with the quiet, focused intensity of someone who had seen a great deal of the world and still found sport capable of surprising him. Then came a changeover, one of those brief pauses in play where the crowd shifts, cameras wander, and attention drifts for just a moment. And in that moment, something caught Sergio Mattarella's eye. In the opposite section of the royal box, partially hidden behind a marble pillar, sat a young woman. She was not on the stadium screens. Her name was not being announced over the public address system. No spotlight was on her. No camera was pointed her way. She was just sitting there, quietly, her left ankle wrapped tightly in a compression bandage, watching the match like anyone else in the crowd. Except she was not like anyone else, and the flags around her made that clear. Red, white, and blue. Philippine colors. Mattarella leaned slightly toward the tournament officials seated beside him and asked the question that would change everything. "Who is that?" The official leaned in close. "Signor Presidente," he said, "that is Alexandra Eala. She is from the Philippines. She was forced to withdraw from the tournament after injuring her ankle. Mattarella nodded, slowly, thoughtfully, because he already knew who she was. The entire city of Rome knew who she was.
Here is what Alex Eala had done to Rome before that moment even happened. This 20-year-old from Manila had not just played tennis at the Foro Italico, she had transformed it. From the moment her run in the tournament began, Filipino supporters had shown up in numbers that the tournament had almost never seen from a non-Italian fan base. They filled sections of the stands, they brought flags, they wore colors, and they chanted. The chant was Laban Alex, a Filipino expression that means fight Alex, a rallying cry that carries the full weight of a nation's pride and hope, and it echoed off those ancient marble statues like something that belonged there, like it had always been there. A 20-year-old had walked into one of Europe's most storied tennis venues and made it feel for thousands of people thousands of miles from home like something that was theirs. That is not a small thing. That is not something that happens every year or every decade. Sergio Mattarella had heard about it, and now he was looking right at her, and he made a decision. "I would like to meet her," he said. What happened next has been replayed across social media and sports broadcast platforms more times than anyone has been able to count. Sergio Mattarella is not a man who makes impulsive gestures. In a lifetime of public service, guiding Italy through constitutional crises, addressing the United Nations, navigating decades of complex European politics, every movement he makes is measured. Every word is chosen with precision. But on this Roman afternoon, he stood up, just like that. He rose from his seat in the front row of the royal box, and the entire section around him reacted instantly. Security details tensed. Tournament officials exchanged quick, uncertain glances. Television cameras that had been locked on a tense baseline rally down on court abruptly swung upward toward the presidential figure now moving through the stands. And then Mattarella walked. Past the VIP section, past the Federation officials, past the bronze busts of Italian sporting legends that lined the royal box like silent guardians. He was walking with purpose, and everyone in that stadium who caught sight of him knew it, even if they did not yet know where he was going. Somewhere in the stands, a Filipino flag began to stir, then another. The chants that had faded after Alex's withdrawal started coming back, softly at first, then building, because somehow, before anyone had said a word, the crowd could feel that something was happening. Alex Eala looked up, and her eyes went wide. The president of a foreign nation was standing in front of her. Sergio Mattarella extended his hand. "Signorina Eala," he said, "it is an honor to meet you." Alex reached out and took his hand, and whatever composure she was holding together in that moment deserves its own round of applause. "The honor is mine, Signor Presidente," she replied. Cameras captured every angle, every expression, every reaction in the royal box and across the stands, and the broadcast commentators, the professionals whose entire job is to fill silence with words, fell completely quiet, because down on the court, a tennis match was still being played. A semifinal at one of the biggest tournaments in the world was in progress, and nobody was watching it. The entire attention of the Foro Italico had shifted to a corner of the royal box where an 84-year-old head of state was speaking quietly to a 20-year-old girl with a bandaged ankle. Mattarella leaned in and spoke to her directly. "I have been watching you," he said, "not only today, but throughout this tournament. The way your supporters show up for you, it is remarkable. It is moving." Then he paused, and he added the line that hit everyone in that box like a wave. "Italy is proud to have hosted you. We hope you will return." But that was not the announcement. That was just the beginning of it, because what Mattarella did next is the part that nobody, not the officials, not the security team, not the broadcast commentators, not the thousands of people in those stands had anticipated. He did not turn to an aide. He did not read from a prepared card. He turned slightly toward the crowd and then toward the broadcast cameras, and he spoke plainly, from conviction. He said the Italian Republic recognizes exceptional contributions to sport, to culture, and to the bridge between nations. It is rare that a single athlete can embody all three. The commentators went completely silent. Even the match on court felt distant, like it was happening in another world. And then Mattarella delivered the words that would be repeated across the entire tennis world for days. Therefore, I am pleased to announce that Alexandra Eala will receive the Order of the Star of Italy, the highest honor the Italian Republic can bestow upon a foreign national. A wave of shock moved through the stadium like a physical force.
Now let's stop for a second, because a lot of people heard that announcement and nodded along without fully grasping what it meant. The Order of the Star of Italy is not a participation trophy. It is not a goodwill gesture. It is the second highest civilian honor that the Italian Republic is capable of giving, ranking just below the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic itself. This honor was originally established in the post-war era as the Order of the Star of Italian Solidarity. It was reformed in 2011 under President Giorgio Napolitano with an updated and very specific mission for modern Italy: the promotion of Italy's image abroad, the strengthening of international friendship, cultural exchange, and cooperation between nations. It is awarded personally by the President of the Republic, following consultation with the Council of the Order, and it is reserved exclusively for foreign nationals who have made exceptional contributions to Italy's relationships with the wider world. This is not something that gets handed out casually. It is not given often, and it has never, in the entire history of the award, been given to a tennis player. Alex Eala became the first during an active tournament, with her ankle in a bandage, at 20 years old. And here is what makes the recognition so much more meaningful than just the prestige of the title. The purpose of the Order of the Star of Italy, promoting Italy's image abroad, building bridges between cultures, is exactly what Alex Eala had spent the entire week doing, without ever trying to. She had not arrived in Rome as a diplomat. She had not come with a political agenda or a carefully managed public relations strategy. She had come to play tennis, and in doing so, she had turned the Foro Italico into a living, breathing expression of international connection. The crowd she drew, the Filipino supporters who packed sections of those stands, who waved flags and chanted in their language off ancient Roman marble, represented one of the largest non-Italian followings that tournament had ever seen. She had not just played in Rome, she had brought Manila to Rome, and Rome, through Sergio Mattarella, had decided to say thank you for it. The reaction in the Philippines was immediate, overwhelming, and deeply emotional. Within hours of the announcement, news had spread from one end of the archipelago to the other. National media ran headlines that stopped people mid-scroll. Social platforms exploded with videos, screenshots, and messages that kept multiplying through the night. From Manila to Mindanao, people were watching a clip of an 84-year-old Italian president shaking the hand of a Filipina girl in a Rome tennis stadium, and they were crying. The messages said everything. Our girl from Manila is now a Knight of the Star of Italy. She didn't win the tournament, but she changed the way Italy sees the Philippines. She came to Rome and she made us proud in a way we didn't know was possible. The Philippine embassy in Rome moved quickly, issuing a formal statement celebrating the honor. The Department of Foreign Affairs in Manila followed with its own message of gratitude directed personally at Sergio Mattarella and the Italian people, acknowledging what it truly meant for a Filipino athlete to be recognized at that level, on foreign soil, by a foreign head of state. Inside the Foro Italico, the moment was deeply personal in a way that the cameras could only partially capture. Alex's mother, Reza, had been seated beside her when Mattarella approached. She had watched the entire exchange unfold from inches away. Later, when reporters asked how she was feeling, she paused for a long time before answering. "I don't have words," she said. Her eyes were still wet. "I am just a mother. I just wanted my daughter to be happy. I never imagined anything like this." And that line, spoken not by a president or an official or a commentator, but by a mother, might be the most honest summary of the entire moment. Because this is not a story that was supposed to happen. It is a story that happened anyway, because one young woman showed up and changed the room simply by being who she is. Alex herself did not speak to the press immediately after the announcement. She needed time. Time to sit with the weight of it, to feel the full scale of what had just occurred. The Roger Federer bracelet that she has worn on her wrist, a gift from the greatest of all time, a reminder of where she started and who believed in her, was still there. The president's words were still echoing. She was processing all of it.
That evening, she posted a single image on her Instagram story. No press conference, no carefully worded statement, just a photograph of the Roman sky seen from the window of her hotel room. The caption read, "I came to Rome to play tennis. I leave with something I never could have imagined. Grazie, mahal ko kayo. Thank you, Italy. I love you." Simple, human, unguarded. And if you read those words and felt something, you were not alone. Because that caption contains an entire world inside it. A girl from Manila, trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy, sitting in a Roman hotel with a bandaged ankle and a presidential honor, and a heart too full for anything more complicated than that. Here is the thing that Sergio Mattarella understood, that the Order of the Star of Italy was specifically designed to recognize. Alex Eala did not need to win the Italian Open to matter. Her tournament ended early. There was no trophy, no victory lap, no final. A grade 2 ankle sprain had taken all of that away from her. But she had done something that winning a tournament cannot always do. She had made people from two completely different corners of the world feel connected to each other. Millions of overseas Filipino workers scattered across the globe, people who carry their home country in their hearts while building lives far from it, people who understand what it means to be seen in a place where you are not expected. They watched this moment unfold in Rome and felt something shift, because in that moment they were seen too. That is what sport can become when it is at its greatest. Not just competition, not just results on a scoreboard, a bridge, a language that does not require translation, a 20-year-old with a racket standing in for an entire nation of people who have always deserved more recognition than they get. In the entire history of the Italian Open, a tournament that stretches back decades and has produced some of the most iconic moments in tennis, no player, champion or not, winner or withdrawn, has left an imprint on that venue quite like the one Alex Eala left in a single week. Italy was not just proud to have hosted her. Italy, through the deliberate, measured, unscripted action of its president, made clear that it was grateful to have been changed by her presence. And that is a very different thing from pride. Pride is what you feel watching a performance. Gratitude is what you feel when someone leaves you better than they found you.
So now the question that everyone in the tennis world is asking is a simple one, but it carries more weight than it might seem. Will Alex Eala return to Rome next year to compete? Will she come back as a player, healthy and hungry, ready to go deep in a tournament that already feels like it belongs to her in some way? Or will she return as something even larger than a tennis player, as a symbol, a bridge, a living connection between two nations that are separated by 11,000 kilometers of ocean, but were brought together by a 20-year-old with a dream and a backhand and a fan base that refused to be quiet. Either way, one thing is already certain. The next time Alex Eala walks into the Foro Italico, those marble statues of ancient Roman athletes are going to feel very familiar to her, because she has already become part of what they represent. Not just a competitor, not just a champion in waiting, but a figure that history paused to notice. A moment that the president of a nation crossed a room to honor. A story that crossed every border without asking anyone's permission. And it all started with one unscripted walk across the royal box and one simple question from an 84-year-old man who looked at a girl in a corner and asked, "Who is that?"